Okay, and we're live. Welcome, everybody. Grandalorian here with a reaction video. And today we are going to react to the 2005 movie Serenity. This was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to be joined today by my special guest, who is a leaf in the wind. You had to go with that one, didn't you?
Of course. What's good? What's good, y'all? It's your boy back again.
Your boy back again.
Just another leaf in the wind.
Just another leaf in the wind.
Yeah.
Are we gonna try and avoid spoilers in this so we don't have to? We can mention the leaf in the wind reference.
Yeah. I think we should avoid spoilers.
Okay, so this is going to be a review of Serenity. We're going to try and make this spoiler free, although we are going to go over the plot to this movie and just talk a little bit about what I feel makes this such a good movie and why I think Joss Whedon is very capable of making good movies. He made this. He made Avengers 1. Avengers 2 is decent. I know he ruined
Justice League.
Justice League was terrible, but
he ruined that. Ruined it.
He did. But he is capable with his own intellectual property because Serenity is totally his, based on the TV show Firefly, which came out in 2002. And I had honestly never watched Firefly. 2002, I believe this came out in the fall, and you were 2 years old, and I had just started teaching, and I was very busy. And this was a TV show that was on, I think, Fox for about 13 episodes maybe, and it was canceled. And there was a huge fan outpouring that they wanted a conclusion or a movie done, so they decided to make a movie. And the movie came out, and I did not see it in the movie theater, but I had read the reviews on it, and they were like, this is a great standalone movie. You don't even need to have watched the TV show. So I was like, okay, cool. And I got it on Blu-ray or something from either Blockbuster or Netflix at the time. And I watched the movie, and I was like, wow, this was really good. And you didn't need to watch the TV show to get into it. It really was a standalone show. But if you did watch the show, it added on to what the show had. And then I went and watched the show afterwards, and I'm like, wow, this really was pretty good. So that's why I picked it, and I made you watch it last week so that we could talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, we have the two perspectives. Like, I've never seen a show ever, and you have. So, like, for me, it's like I thought like everything made sense. Like, I wasn't like confused. Like, I still like got why everything was going on. And, like, the characters were still interesting. I will say that a couple characters kind of just like didn't do anything though. Like the big heavy gun guy just kind of just shot things and like had an occasional like one liner. And the dude's girlfriend, who's like Deadpool's girlfriend in the Deadpool movies, like she was just kind of there, like, okay, I'm gonna stick along. You know what I mean? So it's like you could tell that it's like, okay, in a TV show, these characters probably had more to do, and they just couldn't have everybody do something in a movie. But like it was still good. It was still very good. The core characters were good.
Yeah, the TV show, they all had different arcs. And so you had to bring them back. The big gun guy who is his name is Jane. I think it's Jayne. I mean, he does kind of play an important part in the movie as a kind of a foil to Nathan Fillion's character, Malcolm Reynolds.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
You know, because he's kind of not always on his side and will work against him. And that's something that kind of happened in the TV show too, a little bit. But let's start at the beginning. I think Joss Whedon did a very good job of what we'll call setup and then payoff within the movie. Like, they set up a lot of stuff in the beginning of this movie. So the movie opens like it's like a history lesson, like a teacher's talking, and there's a shot of the Earth, and it's like there's a war going on and spaceships are leaving, and they're like, we have to leave Earth because it's unlivable. Oh, and it's by like 500 years in the future. And everybody fled to a new solar system that had a whole bunch of planets and moons that we could live on. And there were these inner planets that were part of the Alliance, and these outer planets that wanted to be the Independents. And they have this big war, and the Alliance wins and the Independents lose. And they set it up like the inner planets are like your major metropolitan cities that are all, you know, advanced and high tech. And then your outer planets are kind of like, you know, that area between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, like Pennsylvania. You know, it's all kind of like backwater hick towns,
Yeah.
and
And
kind of
there's kind of a separation between the two. Like one side, like the outer planets don't want to like do anything with they don't want to be part of the group.
yeah, they're not happy, and so there's a lot of lawlessness out there, and that's kind of where Malcolm Reynolds and his crew reside. They don't want to be a part of the alliance, but they're having to kind of fly under the radar and be criminals and be bad guys just to survive, because of what is coming up. And then they show it's like a classroom, and there's these little kids. They're like maybe, I don't know, fifth or sixth grade age, and there's this one girl, River Tam. She's a little girl, and she appears in the setup to be some kind of like savant, like she's working feverishly on her computer terminal, but also listening to the teacher explaining things. And then she will engage with the teacher and disagree with the teacher about like not wanting to people be told like what to think. And the teacher says, we're not trying to tell them what to think. We're just trying to make them better. And then there's this really jarring switch to what you would think is like the present. And she's like strapped to a lab chair, and they're experimenting on her, doing something to her. And there's a guy there who looks like he's an officer of some kind, and he's questioning them, like, what's her status? And the doctor's explaining, and all they're doing is giving you backstory. Oh, she's psychic. We've given her these behavioral modifications. She's a weapon. She can fight. She can do all these things. And then it turns out that guy's her brother and stuns everybody with this device and breaks her out. But then you see that's not the future or the present. That's just a holographic video that the protagonist is watching. So then he brings in the protagonist, and he's been sent in to like clean up the mess. And he's this government assassin guy, and he's got
he's the antagonist.
The antagonist. He's the antagonist, and he's got all those like martial art assassin tropes. Like he walks with his hands behind his back, and he's very in control emotionally, and he
carries a sword.
Yeah. And like when he's got all the information he needs, and the guy reveals that like, oh yeah, she's psychic, and we had all these top government officials in there, and she may have learned something delicate that we don't want out. Then he's like, well, you got to go. And he uses this special nerve strike in the back to paralyze. Yeah. And that's a setup for later in the movie too. So he paralyzes the guy and then holds the sword out and lets him fall on it. Because when you fail, you fall on your sword, in front of the emperor or whatever. So you've got all these tropes going on, and they set up all this stuff. And the antagonist is played by the amazing, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but I think it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. That's a tough one to say, but he's a great actor. My students will probably remember him as he's kind of like in the middle of being a protagonist and antagonist in the first Doctor Strange movie, or maybe if anyone saw 12 Years a Slave, he's amazing in that. Just
Mordo.
a really, really good actor playing that part. And then we finally get to our heroes, the protagonists here, and I thought this was a brilliant way to set them up. You start off, their spaceship is heading into this atmosphere of this planet, and a piece breaks off. And then you see the bridge, and there's Nathan Fillion as the captain, and his pilot, Wash, who's a leaf in the wind. And he's like, oh, a piece of our spaceship just flew up. And you're just kind of like seeing like what their
dynamic is. Yeah.
What their dynamic is. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Their dynamic, Wash is kind of like, kind of funny. He's like, this is going to make our reentry really interesting. What do you mean? Oh my God, we're going to die. And so then he warns everybody, like, strap in, and then he leaves. And as he walks through the ship, he runs into each character, and you just get like a little dynamic for each one.
And it's a oneer, or like a quote unquote oneer. Like it's just all happening in one sequence.
Yeah, it's actually two, because they couldn't make the set long enough for all that. But it's one quick turn of the corner cut, and then it keeps going.
Right.
And you meet Gina Torres's character. I'm drawing a blank on her name. Was it Zoe?
Wait, who?
His like second in command, and she's like, you really get the vibe right off the bat.
Wait, she's the one who's married to the pilot.
Yeah, Wash's wife, and you get this military bearing from her, and she calls him sir. You know that there's a relationship of respect there, and then he gets to Jane, and Jane's got all the guns and hand grenades. He's like, we're not going to be in a big shootout, and he's like, well, what you plan and what happens ain't exactly always the same thing, Like he's a little defiant, and he's the gun nut. And then they get to the engineer,
Yeah.
And he's like, I thought you said that was going to last for another couple of weeks. And she's like, yeah, that was 6 months ago. And you're kind of getting this feeling that Malcolm is kind of maybe not, altogether the best captain of the ship, that maybe he's a little incompetent, which is a little bit of a misdirection. And then he runs into the doctor. He runs into River's brother that busted her out.
Right.
And he's very upset with him because they're going to take her on this heist.
Yeah,
And
River's brothers are so annoying.
yeah, and then he's like, and while they're talking, he's like, you're here and you're earning your passage by patching us up, so you're getting his dynamic. And then River, and he's like, it's okay to leave them to die if something happens and whatever.
Like, bro, shut up, bro. Chill
And
out, bro.
yeah. But it was a great way to, like, for people like me who hadn't seen the show, that was a great way to get introduced to almost every character from the TV show. And if you had watched the show, it's like a really nice way to reintroduce everybody after like 3 years.
Wait, was River and River's brother like in the TV show?
Yeah.
What was River doing if she's just like in that, like being experimented on?
Well, that was all like flashback from the TV show. So like the TV show starts with them hooking up with Malcolm and his crew and fleeing the Alliance.
Oh.
And then all the episodes are them trying to take jobs because they're fleeing the Alliance because the Alliance is after her. And there's actually another one of those assassin guys in the TV series.
Oh,
one of the episodes where they've sent people out to find her. So they kind of have to take illegal jobs to stay off the Alliance radar and go steal stuff or whatever. But then, they steal this medication from this one town and then they feel bad and they give it back. And then they tell the guy, like, look, here's your money back. We're not going to do this to these people. And then that guy's after them. And, and all these, and then the other two characters that we haven't seen yet are in the show, the preacher and then the Deadpool's girlfriend, she comes along later and then they all have their little arcs in the show. So this is like the movie takes you back to the very beginning, establishes River, actually gives you a little more information about her than the TV show did, and then jumps you right back into now we're at the events after the last TV episode.
Gotcha.
And they've got to do another heist job because they're out of money. The ship's falling apart. And so they're going to go to this backwater planet and rob the Alliance payroll. And because it's an outer planet, it's all done in cash money and not like credits.
Right.
So, and they're going to take River because she's psychic. She'll know if somebody's going to try and like sound an alarm or pull a gun or something. So they need her help to go complete the heist. And that's where it takes off from there. And I just think that's a great way to introduce your movie and refresh people's memories that watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody's on the same page and we're off and running and the movie can begin.
Yeah, I will say I think the best parts of this movie are just like the group dynamics, like just watching them, like, because there's a couple of scenes where they're just like standing around talking, like, what should we do? Like, is this what we're doing right? Like, like all that stuff. Like those scenes are great. And they're really the core of this movie for me. Like just like how they like beat off each other and whatnot is really good.
Yeah, you're really trying to gauge like who is Nathan Fillion's character, who's Mal, and they get to the bank and he's telling everybody, wait, time out. I'm going to go back to one other thing. One other thing I really like that Joss did with this movie in writing it, he wrote like a future language. Like it's still English, but everybody has like kind of slightly different colloquial terms that they use.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll say, like if everything's good now, they'll say it's shiny. Or if he says he's thinking, it's like, if I conjure, this is good. And he just writes his own little future vocabulary that because you use different vocabulary than I use. You guys have all your weird phrases like, oh, this slaps or whatever,
Yeah.
Things I never said, but that's language changes over time.
Yeah.
It evolves. And so he's evolved the language in the future that they use these different terms. Oh, and they curse in Chinese to avoid the censor issues.
Really?
Yeah. So they'll just say these Chinese curses at each other when they're mad about something. They speak in these, and that'll come into something I'll talk about at the very end too, because that actually is a very interesting fan theory plot point. Chinese references in the language and all that. So they're at the bank and he's they find out the money's in this vault underneath and they go down there and he's like negotiating with the Alliance guy, like, look, I got to shoot you in the leg. It's got to look. And the guy's like, well, I'm thinking of a graze. And he's like, you can't look like you gave up too easy. I mean,
that was good.
A real villain would have just shot him in the leg or just killed him and been done with it and taken the money. But he's like, yeah, I'm a criminal, but like, I really don't want to be doing this. So look, how about we do it this way? I just shoot you in the leg. We take the money, we leave, you survive. Everything's good. You won't get in too much trouble. And while they're doing that, the Reavers show up and just start taking people. And the guy calls down to him. He's like, there's Reavers. And he like turns to the bank guy and he's like, get everybody in this vault, lock it, and don't let anybody out until you're out of air.
Right.
You know, and then boom, they're out of there and they've got to escape. And that one guy tries to jump on their vehicle with them and he kicks him off. He's like, it's too heavy. You know, you can't go get back in the vault. And then the Reavers show up and grab that guy. And man, Malcolm doesn't even miss a beat. He just pulls the gun out and shoots the guy down so he doesn't get eaten alive.
Yeah, here's the thing about this scene, though. I feel like because the Reavers have an important role, like, you know, later in this movie, I would have liked to see more brutality from the Reavers, like actually see why they're so like feared. Like you kind of just see them take people and, you know, fight and whatnot. Like, I mean, I know this is like, you know, probably a PG-13 movie or whatever, but I want to see a Reaver like eat someone. I want to see them like Walking Dead somebody. You know what I mean? Like I want to like fear these guys. Like they were scary looking, of course, but like I want to see like something visceral because they're a visceral, brutal, you know, thing.
This is 2005, and the mindset back then might have still been like a rated R movie will not make as much money as a PG-13 movie.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
This is before like Logan and Deadpool and some of these other R-rated movies that made like big bank for the studio. So like, hey, we got to keep, you know, we got to keep it down. We can do it in other ways. We can talk about it. Like when they're cleaning up after their escape and Jane is talking about, you know, I don't understand these guys eating on each other, you know, eating people and, you know, what makes a man do that to another man. And
right.
and
Yeah.
That. And they're like, well, nobody knows where they come from, you know, and so they just kind of like hint at it. Like they're really horrible and terrifying. And they live in this region of Reaver space that nobody wants to go to. The Alliance won't go there. Nobody goes there. So they get their money, they escape, and it's always questioning him. His second in command, Gina Torres, is like, you know, why did you kick that guy off? And he's like, well, we couldn't handle that many people and the money. And she's like, we could have thrown the money aside. And he goes, you know, I got to feed these people. We need money. We don't have anything. And she's just like, well, you know, back in the war, we never would have left somebody behind like that. And he's like, war's over. We lost.
Yeah, maybe that's why we lost.
Yeah, maybe that's why we lost. And so, you know, he's haunted by his past. He doesn't want to be part of the Alliance, but he can't get over, you know, you get this sense of tremendous loss. And that comes up later in the movie too, where somebody questions him about, you know, how many people died under your command, you know, when you were doing stuff. So I thought they did a really good job with that. And then, Simon, because of the Reavers and all that, Simon's really ticked off and is like, I'm taking River and we're out of here. She gets her share and we're gone. So they land on that planet to dump them off and turn the money in and get their credits they need from those two guys. And River's kind of just looking at this TV and something sets her off and she just whispers a word. And all of a sudden she just starts beating people down. And I got to say, for a non-martial artist, because she was a trained ballerina and her core is so strong and she's so flexible, she actually can pull the martial arts off pretty well.
Yeah.
You could almost believe like she would be beating all these people down because she's so fast.
Yeah, honestly, I was impressed. Like her kicks looked like, I mean, not like you said that because, you know, you're a Taekwondo guy. Like not all of them look like they actually like would do a lot of damage. Like they're kind of just like thrown up there, but like they look like so like cool. Like I just love their looks. Just watching her just like, you know, just kick out all these guys like freaking Roadhouse or something. Like,
yeah,
it's nice. It was dope. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, whoa, that's her doing this. Like, that's not a stunt double. That's her.
And because she's so flexible and strong, the fluidity with which she's able to perform the choreography makes it look believable. Like, wow, she could kick some butt if she really wanted to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to run into her in a dark alley. She's probably like 5'3".
Right.
But she looks fearsome when she's beating on these people. And then, of course, the doctor shows up and whispers a phrase in another language, and she just passes out, and they get her out of there. And then they're like trying to figure out like what just happened. Why did they do this? And then they're trying to figure out, you know, why did she whisper this word? What did this word mean? And the assassin's after them trying. And it turns out the assassin had planted that subliminal because she had those behavior mods built into her that they could trigger her and then try and find out. Oh, she was on this planet. Let's go there now and let's go track her down. And so now the race is on. They're trying to stay ahead of the assassin. He's trying to anticipate what's going on. And I'll give you my take on this. I say that this movie is a tale of two monsters. The assassin even says at one point when he shot up a whole village of their friends, and he's like, I'm just doing what I have to do to, my job. And Nathan Fillion, Mal's like, I don't kill women and children, and the antagonist is like, well, I do, and he's like, Mal, I'm a monster. But at the same time, Malcolm Reynolds is also a monster. I mean, he killed that guy right off the bat when they kicked him off the mule and the Reavers grabbed him, put him out of his misery. When that one surviving guy from that ship that got shot down from the Alliance came out, he just shot him down. And then he tells his crew, like, we're going to go through Reaver space to investigate this thing. And they're like, you can't do that. He's like, look, anybody who's not helping me or taking your leave, I will put you down right here. This is it. Get to work. Like, he's a monster.
And plus, he's like, we're going to put all these dead bodies of our friends on our ship to make us look like Reavers.
To make us look like Reavers. And they're like, oh, my God. Like, he's like, yeah, get to work. And so he's a monster. And that's what makes him a hero. And what makes him heroic is that he is a monster, but he just chooses not to be. He has it in him. That's what makes him dangerous. But he tries to keep it, he tries to live a better life. But now he's pushed to the moment now where now he's got to do some monstrous things to stand up for something he's actually going to believe in. And then you have, and the other thing I like is that because he can be so annoying at times with the way he deals with people, like you get to see the antagonist kind of lose control.
Yeah.
Like Mal's losing control and he's getting, he's doing these things and threatening his own friends. But at the same time, this super cool martial arts assassin guy who's always in control starts to break, and get really mad at things. And he's like freaking out at one point, like, somebody shoot something. Like with all coming in, he loses control. And it's just a great dynamic between the two of them. And then the payoffs at the end, everything they set up paid off at the end of the movie. I thought it was great. That's
right. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And like you said that, like, I haven't seen the TV show, but like I still like, I still got the dynamics of all the characters, and like I just enjoy watching them just do their thing. You know what I mean? A few of them did annoy me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the engineer lady kind of annoyed me. The
Haley.
Rivers brother kind of annoyed me.
Simon, yeah.
Yeah. But like other than that, like I liked everybody else.
I think after having seen the show, maybe you empathize with Simon a little bit more because he's really had to sacrifice a lot to save his sister. And like his whole life now is focused on just trying to help her. He can't do anything for himself. He's got no, his only personal stake is I've got to cure my sister because she's having all these issues from being brainwashed, through her childhood. Yeah, I mean, you had to have all the characters back from the TV show, and they do have their arcs in the show.
Yeah. Wait, did Joss Whedon write the show?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
So this is entirely his thing.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so since he knows these are all ideas and characters from his mind, he knows how to write them. He's developed this whole language thing for the future. Like, he's got a firm control of the material. Mm-hmm. And so in his presentation of it in the movie, it comes across like he does a really good job, I think. The only thing that doesn't hold up is these are 2005 special effects. And this is like a time where they were transitioning off of, like, in the movies prior to this and in the 90s, all the spaceships would have been huge models, like really big models built in a studio and carefully detailed, put on these giant rigs and filmed with a blue or green screen. And that would give the special effect like some kind of weight to it, that it looked like a real thing.
Right.
And this is early CGI. I mean, it's still pretty good, but you can just see, like, there's just something fake about it. Like, it's not there. Like, here's the scene. Here's their they call it the mule, their little side craft that they go to the town with to rob the bank. That's a real set piece that they're on. And this spaceship that's chasing them with the Reavers just doesn't look real. It looks like a video game.
And I will also say that I find it really interesting, like in the ship fights, like towards the end of the movie where they're showing up at this place where they have to do this thing for the final act, and you have the ships coming in and there's like a bit of like a ship battle. It looked like Revenge of the Sith. It looked like that's what they were trying to do, because Revenge of the Sith also came out in 2005, but like Revenge of the Sith looked better. But then again, it's Star Wars, so had a bigger budget. So
yeah, I think this only had a budget of about 36 million.
Yeah,
and Star Wars probably had like 100 million.
Yeah,
to go at it, but this was a better movie.
Well, I don't know if I would say. I mean, there's some dumb moments in Revenge of the Sith. Like, granted, like there's still the cringy, what have you moments, but yeah, I think this movie might have some better moments. I don't know. It maybe has a better overall plot, I'll say.
Yeah, and this was a good payoff for the TV series, because fans were really into the TV series and wanted to see it, wanted to see some kind of conclusion for it, and it ended in a way that's a good conclusion. You could have done a sequel, and there was talk of a sequel if it had done well in DVD releases and things like that, but just never came off. And I think shortly after this, he was getting tapped to do Avengers for Marvel,
right?
And one other interesting dynamic that comes out throughout the movie is there are times in the movie where, I said in the beginning, Malcolm comes off as kind of like maybe a bit of a buffoon who doesn't know what's always going on with his own ship, but then things happen in the movie where he shows like that he's actually a pretty educated guy. Like at one point, the agent wants him to give River over to them. He meets the agent on a planet, and they're talking face to face. And he's like, I think you realize, what an albatross she is. And Mal says, well, my understanding is the albatross was actually good luck until somebody killed it. So he read the Rime of the Ancient Sea Mariner, I think is that book, where the guy kills the albatross and then has all the bad luck. Or when they're fighting at the end and the guy's like, what your sin is? And he's like, oh, I'm a fan of all seven, but I'm going to go with wrath. Like, so he knows,
right?
Paradise Lost or whatever book the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues are in and all that stuff. Like, so he like flashes these things like, yeah, I do know. And that happened once in the TV show too, where a guy was talking about some book and he's like, oh, you want to get to know the real me? Because that's what that book was about. You're like, wow, this guy's actually pretty educated.
Wait, what is an albatross? It's a bird?
It's a big bird.
Oh.
And I read that book in like high school, and it was like the sailor, and he shot it and tried to bring it back on the side. And there was like, he shot it and he was trying to bring like a large fish back that he caught, but it was so big he couldn't get it in his boat. So he was trying to, I think, just drag it back to the dock or whatever from being way out. And then like sharks came and ate her. So I can't really remember the entirety of the book, but he's right that, after he shot this albatross, it was really bad luck for him on the boat. And so they use that phrase now, this albatross around your neck. Well, that's after it's already dead. So by the agent saying like, she's an albatross, well, she's not really, because she's still alive.
Right.
And so he's like saying like, well, it's good luck until somebody shoots it.
Well, I will say another thing about this movie, like, because I watched it before, we watched it recently, and to be honest, I didn't remember much of it because I must have been like pretty young when I watched it, like maybe like early teens or maybe before then, and I didn't really remember much. I'm like, I don't remember this, but then we get to one point in the movie where we go to this planet. I don't want to like spoil too much, but we arrive at this planet we've been trying to get to, and it's beautiful. What they do in that section of the movie is really good. And I love that. I love that part because it's so unsettling. It's like, what is going on here?
The Reaver trip.
Yeah, but after they arrive.
Yeah,
when they arrive.
All right. So here's the thing about the Chinese in that there's a fan theory out there that this movie, Blade Runner, and the Alien franchise are all in the same universe.
Really?
Because in Blade Runner, in the future, the people speak like this half English, half Chinese slang. You know, the town, like they're in, I guess they're in Los Angeles or whatever, or San Francisco, and it's all, you know, Chinese and Japanese. Oh, and one other show, The Man in the High Castle. So that show, The Man in the High Castle, is what if Germany won World War II, and then like the east coast of the United States is controlled by the Germans, and the west coast is controlled by the Japanese because they won the war,
Right.
and that's in the same universe too. And then some of the props they use in the TV show and in the Aliens movies and in Blade Runner are the same. Or have
Really?
the same look to them. And so people are like, oh, all these franchises are actually all connected. And there is something to be said for Blade Runner and Alien definitely being connected.
Well, yeah, they're definitely connected because Ridley Scott did Alien
Right.
and
He did both.
Blade Runner.
But now they're saying that Joss Whedon puts this in the same universe with them, but in the future, and they've had to leave
Right.
Earth finally because it's just, you know, a war and whatever. There's explosions going off, and the spaceships were leaving in the beginning. So that's kinda cool.
Where the robots at then? Where are the androids at? Are there any androids in Serendipity?
Serenity. Serendipity's total other thing. No, I don't think there's any androids, but maybe because the Wayland Yutani Corporation is out of business or whatever. Whoever made the artificial people, they're artificial people.
I mean, besides Mr. Universe's girlfriend, besides her.
Yeah. Actually, there's one. It's his wife. He married her. It was beautiful.
That was so clowny, yo. That was so clowny when I saw that. Honestly, that's worth the watch alone, just to be like, look at this bull.
But not only that, I don't like sometimes when they make a movie and they throw a character in who's just so over the top. The way he talks, like that kind of turns me off when a character's like that. It's like Batman from the 60s or the Mr. Freeze, George Clooney Batman movie where people are just like, or Jim Carrey is the Riddler, like they're just over the top, and that character is over the top.
Yeah.
Weird. So that is a drawback. But overall, movie's really solid. Very good sci-fi, good standalone movie. You don't need to watch the TV show to enjoy it. Yeah, I did like this movie. And if you watch it, then you'll understand the reference to A Leaf in the Wind.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that is jarring. There was a couple moments in this movie that were jarringly. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, The Leaf in the Wind. I remember that too. I remembered that after I saw that for the second time. I was like, yeah, I remember that. But I'm not gonna let you know what, because that'd be a spoiler. You have to find out. You have to find out.
So if you rated this out of 5 stars, Serenity, what would you give it?
I give it 4.
I was gonna say 4.
Yeah.
I think 4 is a good number for this. All right. Well, I'm glad you liked it when we watched it. We'll have to pick another movie soon.
Yep.
To review. Although I still think I should clip out that scene from No Country for Old Men and go through that and break that scene down.
Yeah, we should do that. We should do that next.
In the next week, or maybe even later this weekend. Who knows if you have spare time?
I might have time Sunday, maybe.
All right. Well, I'll let you know. I'll get that scene pulled up, and we can go through it. 'Cause it's about a 5-minute scene.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on in it. I think it would be a great thing to break down.
Right. I also want to say I saw Batman again this week, and it's so good. I love it even more.
You mean The Batman?
The Batman. I love the score. I just love everything about it. I love Robert Pattinson's Batman. I went with Larkin, and I remember she saying, I don't really like action movies. I don't really like, car chases and gunfights and that kind of stuff. But after the car chase in the movie, she looked at me like, whoa. Like, it's so good, yo. It's so good. Like, everything about it is amazing. It's so good.
Some of my students didn't like the Batmobile. And I'm like, what are you kidding me? That's like,
no, it's so dope.
It's perfect for a year 2 Batman. Like, he has all the car parts in his Batcave. Like, It's something he made just himself. He didn't have, Wayne Enterprises making military vehicles that didn't get sold. And oh, look, here's a whole bat suit. Oh, look, here's a whole rampless jumping car. Here's all the tech you'd ever want already made for you. He's making it himself.
Right.
And it's a big, burly muscle car with an afterburner. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that about this movie where Batman's like still figuring stuff out. You know what I mean? Like when he's running away from GCPD and he's on the top of that building, he's like, oh my God, I've never been this high before. I'm still like a little unsure about this.
Yeah. And I like the fact that his tech doesn't always work the way he thinks it's going to work. Like,
yeah.
It's a learning curve.
It's very
Only on
good.
this channel could we be reviewing one movie and then just pivot to another one. Like,
Yup.
Batman now,
Yup.
or as we call it, vengeance.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. The arc he goes on. You know what I mean?
I wonder, can I go watch it now? No, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
9:19, because I think Mom's asleep
Ah,
already.
of course.
9 o'clock on a Friday. All right. Well, thank you for stopping by, Leaf on the Wind, in the wind.
Yeah, of course. I'll just blow into the next town. Yeah.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks for coming by.
Yup.
See ya.
Meow.